Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. First off, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin territory we're in. My name is Stephen Buffalo. I'm the President and CEO of the Indian Resource Council of Canada. And our organization represents First Nations that produce or have direct interest in the oil and gas industry. Our mandate is to advocate for federal policies that will improve and increase economic development opportunities for First Nations and their members. We are here today because the chiefs of Treaty 6, several that are here today, are putting a resolution forward at the Assembly of First Nations to support us in the litigation against the Government of Canada in respect to the imposition of the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act and the carbon tax on First Nations and their people. This has been imposed on us in violation of our rights without consent and has caused severe hardship in our communities. We have raised the issue with the carbon tax of the federal government before, as many chiefs and nations, and nothing has been done to address the concerns. And of course, we've exhausted our avenues for change, and the chiefs have decided to commence with litigation. The government has proven times that the only way from doing things that are unconstitutional or illegal against our people is to go to court. Obviously, this is a disrespect, an injustice, and a slap in the face to reconciliation. So we're here to support the chiefs and their members for a fight for justice. Today I have Chief Delbert Wapas from the Thunder Child First Nation, as well as Chief Greg Desjardins from the Frog Lake First Nations, and our colleague Robert Black from the MLT. So I'll get the chiefs to give some comments before we take some questions.
Yeah, good morning, Chief Delbert Wapas from Thunder Child First Nation. Thank you very much, Stephen Buffalo, for the introduction. As Stephen has indicated, that we have a resolution that's going forward to the Assembly of First Nations, and that's out of respect and acknowledging the protocol within AFN and making sure that the chiefs are aware. Generally, we've had the discussion amongst ourselves in regards to the carbon tax and what it and the imposition and what it's done and how it violates our rights as Indigenous peoples. Not only does it affect our treaty rights, but it also infringes upon Section 87 of the Indian Act, and further, the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous Peoples, different sections within that as well. It's important that we're not here to fight government, but we're here to defend our right as Indigenous peoples, as treaty people, and so it's important that we understand, that we can appreciate, the position that we are put in as treaty signatories on behalf of our membership, on behalf of our nations. That there wasn't consultation. It was just a one-size-fits-all. Here's the policy. It's going to apply right across, without the acknowledgement, of that treaty partner, which is us. So we are here, on behalf of our nations, on behalf of, our people that we represent, to ensure that justice prevails at the end of the day as per treaty and our inherent rights. So with that, thank you, and I'd like to pass it on over to our chairman, our chief, Chief Greg Desjardins.
Thank you, Delbert. Chief Greg Desjardins, Frog Lake, Alberta, Treaty 6, Chairman of the IRC Board. I just wanted to come here in a good way, but also to share, and to remind Canada, and maybe to the people that don't know the history that our people have been going through for many decades, and the unjust that we must face once again. So one of the very few treaty benefits that we have been able to enjoy over the years is the tax exemption, an acknowledgement that our reserves, at least we do not owe other governments anything. But now with the carbon tax, we're not even getting that. Although it may be called a levy or pricing, from our perspective, it clearly violates the spirit and intent of treaty and tax exemption. Just like our colleague Delbert had shared here, I just want to share that I wanted to point out that the other governments have recognized our rights and exempted First Nations from the carbon tax. We will not stand by while our communities are pushed further into poverty by the tax we never agreed to. For example, the Alberta provincial government exempted transportation fuel and natural gas deliveries on reserve from its provincial carbon levy before it was rescinded in 2019. The BC government currently exempts the carbon tax for First Nations, individual, and bands for fuel purchased on reserve. So we are calling on the federal government to adopt the same policy, not only out of fairness, but to uphold and honor the Crown and meet the spirit and intent of its treaty commitments. Finally, I want to dispel any notion that lower income First Nations are better off with the carbon tax rebate. I just wanted to share that most of the people living on reserve are exempt from paying taxes, because this is the treaty rate that we had agreed to when there was that handshake with our white brothers. We tend to forget that, and we need to respect every level of government, and that's kind of what we're looking for here today. Our nations are being taxed without our consent, plain and simple. The government has no right to impose these policies on us while ignoring the treaties, our inherent rights, and our voices. We will not stand by while our communities are pushed further into poverty by a tax we never agreed to. So I just wanted to share a little bit of points here, and acknowledge my colleagues here today for coming and speaking on these issues and defending the process that's been unfair to our people for many decades. And I should not have to remind Canada the atrocities that our people have gone through, and to share the land, but also to share respect, I think is huge, and we need to get back to that as human beings on this land here, across the world, but mainly here in Canada, and we're dealing with this government, and they need to respect our chiefs and our nations and our leaders in a good way. And usually, like Delbert said, usually we're given the document and said, here, you got 2 days, what do you think? We need to be involved in the policy and the creation of these bills, these acts. As First Nations on this land, we're never the problem. We're all part of the solution here. So I just wanted to share that and leave it there. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I'm Natasha Belowski. I work for Canada's National Observer, and I was wondering, first of all, just a quick question. Do you expect the resolution to pass today? I assume when it'll be up?
The resolution's going to hit the floor tomorrow, and the mover is going to be Chief Cody Thomas from Enoch Cree Nation, right? Treaty 6, and I'm the seconder of that resolution. I don't expect there to be any problems whatsoever with that, but we do expect to have real good discussion on it, because there are a lot of leaders right across Canada, some that are new and some that are seasoned, and so bringing people up to speed in regards to what it's about and that understanding and respecting Aboriginal title, right? Respecting other nations and their perspectives as it relates to treaty. There's treaties 1 to 11, then there's Aboriginal right, there's Aboriginal title, there's all the, and respecting territories. But at the end of the day, there's no doubt in my mind that it will pass. So.
This is open for anyone, but I read about the Chiefs of Ontario. They have a similar legal challenge. I mean, correct me if there are some differences, but I was wondering if you know of any updates on that, but also if there's any lessons learned from the approach that they've taken that you're going to be incorporating.
We're certainly in contact with the Chiefs of Ontario. I think the coordination of efforts only makes sense. And so we have an active dialogue going on with them, and certainly the objective here is to the greatest extent possible to present a united front.
And I don't want to get too into the legal weeds. My editor won't enjoy that. But are there any key differences that I should be aware of? I know that obviously this legal challenge hasn't been made yet, but anything I should keep in mind when sort of describing some of what the substance will be there.
I think you'll find that in all of the major areas of contention that there will be full alignment.
And I guess maybe I was just wondering roughly what time tomorrow that'll likely hit the floor so I can tune in.
Well, on the schedule, right, on the program, it says that it's scheduled for 11:30 and it's resolution number 2. Yeah.
Sam Forster, Canadian Affairs. This is obviously an issue that has been very central for the opposition. Have you had any dialogue or productive consultations with anyone in the Conservative Party about this? And is there any comment you can make about the relationship with that party?
Our intent is really not to get involved in the politics of things. Our intent is to make sure that, as nations, as treaty nations, First Nations, that we are standing up and defending our rights, right? And making the best case forward in regards to our understanding of the spirit and intent, and to hold government to account. We believe that we were wronged. We believe that the position that the federal government has taken is unfortunate, without consulting, their treaty partner, right? And we believe at the end of the day that, if it's, we're coming from this from a perspective of defending our right and common sense. Common sense. If you go back and you understand the true intent and the relationship that exists, right? And we're talking about reconciliation. We're talking about all these beautiful words that government uses. Well, where is that when you unilaterally made the decision that you did to do this? Now, if the Conservatives come on side, great. NDP comes on side, and at the end of the day, the Liberals see, what we're doing is right, and they come on side, we all win. But at the end of the day, we are here representing us and not getting involved in, not getting in the weeds of politics.
Thank you.
We will now take a question on Zoom. Nous allons maintenant prendre une question en ligne. Mark Ramsey, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you all for being here. Mark Ramsey with the Toronto Star. Just following up on my colleague Natasha's question about the Chiefs of Ontario's challenge. Just for my understanding, can you explain, I guess, as I understand it, that challenge is kind of well underway. I think, I'm not sure, maybe they're close to a settlement or something like that. Can you just explain why not join that challenge instead? I understand the AFN has joined that challenge, for example. Can you just explain why start a new legal challenge when there is one kind of well underway there, if there are similarities?
Certainly, our intention is to coordinate with the Ontario Chiefs. The impact of this legislation in Alberta and Saskatchewan and in Treaty 6 territory is severe. The nations in Alberta and Saskatchewan are often remote, and there is a reliance upon high carbon fuels because there's simply no alternatives. There's no process in those reserves to just make better choices to use mass transportation because there's a massive infrastructure deficit within community. And so you've got a circumstance here where there is a uniquely disproportionate impact because of the reality that these are remote reserves in many instances that are just simply reliant upon high carbon fuels because there is no alternative. And then you combine that with the reality that the rebate system is through the Income Tax Act, and most folks that live and work on reserves are not filing income tax returns. They're essentially shut out from the system to secure their rebates. And so there are certainly many issues to consider, and we have an active dialogue going with the Ontario Chiefs to coordinate.
I think further is that we do support what the Chiefs of Ontario are doing. But we also know that there are other treaty areas within other regions that would like to step forward or perhaps are considering stepping forward. So tomorrow's discussion is going to be is going to enlighten a lot of things, in regards to, really good that Ontario is doing, really good that, Alberta and Saskatchewan are doing this, so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, everything's going to be coordinated, but don't fool yourself thinking that it's just, we're not over here because we're against it. We are fully supportive of what Ontario is doing, but there are nations right across Canada that are feeling the same way because we are all, we all have that understanding with government, and the fact that we weren't consulted, and the fact of how we're affected, through the socioeconomic situation, what have you. So here we are, right? We're already impoverished, dealing with, high unemployment, homelessness and what have you. Even the education system, we're not getting funded to the level that we should be, right? So our kids can't even be taught, the green energy plan and all these different good things that the rest of the world is on cue to do. We're busy. Our kids are busy trying to survive, with the trauma that they've gone through with this and that, and we don't have the monies to deal with trauma, right? But yet we're expected for our kids to be ready, for the world that's coming. And then here we are slammed with the carbon tax. What next? What next after that?
Thank you for answering that. I appreciate it. And my second question, I understand, part of the rebate system, the government's put aside some money, I guess, in payouts. I think part of it was to small businesses, and they had said part of it was supposed to go to First Nations as well, but there has always been some confusion with that. I don't know if there's an actual system in place, but I understand in the last budget that amount was doubled. Have you gotten any of that money? Can you talk a little bit about what's going on there? Because I understand this has been part of the system as well.
Those monies are identified for the nations, and of course, we're an advocacy organization, primarily because was created. We have a special federal regulator called Indian Oil and Gas Canada. So our job is to really watchdog and work with the federal government through that mechanism. So the small business stuff is really up to the nations to decide. So not quite familiar with that whole process, but if it's open to the nations that are looking to participate in it, it'd be kind of great. But again, through all of this, it's really challenging for nations to even access some of these opportunities. The bureaucratic red tape of getting some of the access to the money it's labor intensive. It's hard work, and report after report after report to actually access these grants is extremely difficult. But going forward, if the nations have an opportunity to look at this, and of course we look at the oil and gas space, the energy space, and it's collaboratively makes a good synergy to have an opportunity with definitely the nations can look at it from their vantage point. Thanks.
I'll share. Yeah, Chief Desjardins Frog Lake again. No, to date we have not received any money, but of course, what would that look like, and what it would do would be just to offset the underfunded programs that currently exist on the nations. you know, the poor infrastructure, the black mold. You know what? Many nations don't even have RCMP. Many nations don't even have an ambulance. People die waiting for an ambulance. Ladies decide to buy groceries instead of buying feminine products. This is the world that we're actually dealing with out there that mainstream Canada does not see or educate its people on. You know what? Do the visitors that are coming to Canada, are they taught about what's happening here in Canada? You know, and I think, you know, somebody shared about filing income tax. You know, if you're single and you're living on a reserve, you're living on $409 a month. You know, what does that do for you? What kind of life does it give you? You know what? People are making $400 a day in this city, you know, an hour. You know, some people, you know, so I think that we're at a disadvantage already, and we're underfunded, and the money would just go to offset programming, and of course, the inadequate housing in the washboard roads, and again, the old infrastructure. Many nations, they draw water from a holding tank. We're not tied in. We don't have the luxury of we have to manage your water. You know, and these are the things that society needs to be educated and be. You know what? We should be the Sikhs of this country. We should have rolled up here in a limousine, but yet we have to go through security, and we have to go through all these the red tape. You know, just to get into this building. You know, when we decided to share the land. You know, it was the depth of a plow, and it's the First Nations that are at a disadvantage because we don't benefit from the equalization payments that go out to the provinces, you know, from the taxation, you know, where there was the honor of the treaty of logging minerals that were supposed to be paid out to the First Nations. But to date, we have not received that money, and it would just be going to offset programming and improve the lives of our people. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci. C'est ce qui conclut la conférence de presse.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought you were asking a question. I'm like, I don't.